My 6-year-old daughter Jane has recently started to enjoy playing hide and seek. At first, I thought it was cute. Jane has always enjoyed games like this, so I didn't think much of it. I figured it was something she had played at school, and thought that she'd be bored of it by the end of the week. Kids are always finding new ways to entertain themselves, so it wasn't unusual when she started asking to play. I thought it was something fun that we could do together, and I wanted to promote her creativity. It wouldn't take me that long to find her anyway, as she was notorious for attempting to hide in plain sight. Jane really liked hide and seek though, and never seemed to get weary of it. So for the next 2 months it became sort of routine. Aside from the longevity, it was nothing to be concerned about. That was until today, when I came home from work. I walked in through the garage and saw our nanny Sue, frantic that she couldn't find Jane. Of course, this panicked me, so I asked Sue when she last saw Jane. She told me that Jane had wanted to play hide and seek like usual, so she turned her back and counted to 10 while Jane hid. When she turned around, Jane was gone. Sue said she looked under the couch, in the bedrooms, and under the beds, behind doors, and multiple other places. This went on for almost 30 minutes, and she still couldn't find her. Sue then told me that she had called out to Jane, telling her she wins and to come out from her hiding spot. But Jane never came out, so thinking that Jane hadn't heard her, she continued to look and call her name. After an hour had passed though, Sue began to panic. She ran throughout the house yelling for Jane and telling her it wasn't funny anymore. No response. I even asked Sue if she had possibly heard movement or giggling, something to give away Jane's hiding spot, but she said no. At this point, Sue was in tears, profusely apologizing and practically gagging on her words. I felt awful that my daughter had done this. She had never misbehaved in this way, and she loved Sue too much to make her worry. So I gathered my composure and assured her that Jane had to be in the house. She's too short to unlock the door to go outside, and told her we could look together. We must have looked for hours, in and under every place a child could hide or fit, when I finally remembered a spot that Sue would never think to look. It was Jane's closet, in the far back behind her clothes, in the bottom right corner. There was a little door that had once been used as a dumbwaiter. I forgot that it even existed, but I rushed to Sue and told her. Gasping between words, we ran to Jane's room and frantically pulled the closet door open, almost taking it off its hinges. I dropped to my knees and shoved a mound of clothes to the right, and there it was. Right in front of us was the door to the dumbwaiter. It was painted over with a coat of white paint, but you could see the dark outline square in the wall. The silence between Sue and I was deafening. I knew we were both fearing the worst. I called out to Jane, told her that it was time to stop hiding now, but there was no response. I slowly reached for the handle, my heart beating so loud I could hear it in my ears, and slid the door open. Inside was Jane, but it was a horrifying discovery. Her body was contorted and mangled. Her knees were bent at a 90-degree angle so her feet touched the top of the dumbwaiter. Her arms twisted grotesquely between them. Her long hair fell around her face and body, only her eyes visible through the strands, and her fingernails were bleeding from digging into the wood. Sue and I fell back in sync with each other, terrified, unable to grasp what we were witnessing. After a moment, Sue said that she must have been in shock, possibly from broken bones, so she began to stand up to call an ambulance. It was then when Sue moved that Jane started to scream. It was a shrill, animalistic scream. like a deer that's been hit by a car and left to die. Despite this, Sue managed to stand up and find her cell phone to call an ambulance. It wasn't until she returned that the screaming stopped. I thought that maybe Jane had passed out from pain, so I slowly scooted my way towards her. I must have only moved a few inches when I saw her eyes locked on me, unblinking and glazed over. I called her name gently, but something inside me told me not to go near her. I wanted to console her, but I was scared of her. I was scared of my own daughter. It must have been about 5 minutes before I heard the sound of the ambulance outside the house. Flashes of red shined through the window of Jane's room, and a wave of relief washed over me. I looked back over at Jane, but instead saw the door of the dumbwaiter closing, and the top of Jane's head going down. I jumped towards it and managed to stop it at the last second, my hand between the door and the inside of the dumbwaiter. I yelled to Sue to go downstairs and get the medics, when a sharp pain suddenly shot through my index finger. I screamed and pulled my finger away, a trail of blood following on the floor. I then watched as the dumbwaiter door closed, and could hear Jane giggling as she was being lowered down. But I had soon forgotten about that as the agonizing pain in my finger quickly became unbearable. I brought my hand up slowly to where I could see it, and unwrapped my other hand from it. I almost passed out from the sight. Half of my index finger had been reduced to a stub. It had been bitten off right at the joint. I felt the blood swelling up inside, throbbing against the skin. I then heard Sue come running in, alerting the medics down the hall to come quickly. I tried to tell her about Jane, to tell the medics to check the basement for her, but I could barely get my first word out before everything went dark. I don't remember much after that, only that I woke up in the hospital, which is where I am now. The police came and went about an hour ago. They questioned Sue and I separately, then told me that the only evidence they'd found was a broken window in the basement, my blood on the bedroom floor, and the other half of my finger in the dumbwaiter. No sign of Jane in the house or outside, even with the help of police dogs. So, as of right now, she's been marked as a missing person. I could tell by their tone that they're not too hopeful of finding her, but I know she's out there somewhere. That simple thought alone terrifies me, and I can't stop myself from thinking that this is still a game of hide and seek to her. A bigger one, with more people to play. So if you see her, maybe in the woods or in your house somewhere, take my warning. Don't play hide and seek with her.